part of types of resumes, and then we'll move on to interviews. Okay, so the third type of resume we will be looking at is the video resume. Okay, does anyone have an idea what this is? Any ideas what a video resume could be? Okay, so essentially a video resume is a video, okay, that you create using digital technology like your digital cameras, your smartphones, or various recording apps that you can download even onto your computer and such. Okay, and this video will um, basically display your skills and your abilities. Okay, but it goes like one step beyond your traditional and electronic resumes. Okay, um, what this does is, so a traditional or an electronic resume is just going to list the things that you've done, okay, what you've studied, where you've worked, and all that. But here, in a video resume, you can actually display that. Okay, so it's like a little demo of what you're capable of. So it does give out your basic information, tells people what you've studied, what you've done before, and all, but it's a very creative and a very interesting way of doing the same thing. Okay, and it allows you to display the best parts about yourself. Okay, and it takes you from being just a bunch of words on a couple of sheets of paper to being a real live person. So the employer can see what you look like, can see how you carry yourself, they can hear you speaking. Okay, they can see your skills at using technology to create the video and stuff, and then of course they get your basic background information about education and your career, your work history, and all that. It's also very fast. So going through a traditional or electronic resume of 3 or 4 pages is going to be time consuming, right? But if you just have to look at a short video of 2 or 3 minutes, it's so much faster. It's also fun. So when you're a recruiter, okay, you have to deal with hundreds and hundreds of applications. Imagine if you are on the admissions board of some big university. You're going to have thousands of applications pouring in, right? And it's difficult to go through so many documents. But if I just tell you to sit down and watch a bunch of videos, okay, it's going to be so much easier to deal with. Okay, it's also going to take up much less time, right? So the entire process of screening is much faster. Okay, that that going from a large chunk of say hundreds of applications to coming down to a handful of them is a much faster process. However, there is one basic limitation to using video resumes. It's that it is more suited to creative fields. So if you're in the performing arts, or if you are sorry, in a field where using technology like this is useful or needed, or where your skills can actually be demonstrated. So suppose you're a singer or a dancer or an actor. Okay, suppose you're an artist and you paint stuff, or you create sculptures, or some kind of craft things. Okay, suppose you're a sports person, right? It's much easier to create video resumes for that. Okay, but people can still work around this basic limitation and find a creative way to use this even in a profession which is not typically suited to a video resume. Okay, so no matter what field you are in, if you can think about it, if you spend a little time and really sort of work your way around with this concept of a video resume, you can definitely create one. Alright. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a bunch of examples of video resumes. Okay, the first one is a fictional one. Okay, it's from a movie. After that, I will show you 3 examples of real resumes of real people. Okay, and in fact, you can actually just go to YouTube and look for video resumes, and you get a bunch of resumes of real people that they have uploaded. Okay, so let's watch these videos, and I thought that this was the best way to tell you what a video resume is like, rather than giving you the structure and all that.
So here I am, applying to be one of your interns, because the more I think about this idea, the more tremendous I think it is. I love the idea of having a place I can go every day. I want the connection, the excitement, I want to be challenged, and I guess I might even want to be needed. The tech stuff might take a bit to figure out. I had to call my 9-year-old grandson just to find out what a USB connector was. But I'll get there, eager to learn. Also, I want you to know I've been a company man all my life. I'm loyal, I'm trustworthy, and I'm good in a crisis. And I love that you're right here in Brooklyn. I've lived here all my life, and lately I feel I may not be hip enough to live in Brooklyn. So this could help with that, too. I read once musicians don't retire. They stop when there's no more music in them. Well, I still have music in me. Absolutely positive about that.
Okay, so, sorry, 1 second. So based on this video, what do you understand of video resumes now? Just whatever you understood from this video, let me hear it. Come on guys, what do you think of this video?
It shows a short glimpse of our work.
Very nice. What else?
We can express more things than a normal resume.
Absolutely. Could you elaborate on that?
Like in the video, he's speaking a little bit in informal way, so it's just easy to understand.
Okay. What else? You mentioned that you can say things that you can't really say in a normal, traditional resume. Could you give an example of that, Claudie?
Like he said that he is very loyal and trustworthy, so these things cannot be written in a resume.
Absolutely right. Okay. Um, yeah, so you cannot really say that my special skill is loyalty or trustworthiness or that I'm good in a crisis, right? So these are really things that people would find out about you after you start working with them. Okay, after they interact with you on a personal level. Maybe during the interview it might come out, but technically in a document of 2 or 3 pages, you're just going to state your basic facts, okay, stuff that can be proved with your academic certificates or employers letters and stuff. So that video resume, it gives you the freedom, okay, to highlight the best parts about yourself. Okay, you can just state your qualifications in a line or two. Okay, you can state in one, okay, you can give one name of one place where you worked, but essentially you are showing them who you are, not just as an employee but also as a person. Okay, there's another very beautiful thing that came out in this video where he mentions the grandson. Can someone talk about that? guys. Okay, so he mentions that he doesn't know a lot of technological stuff. Okay, he says that he had to call his grandson to find out what a USB connector is. Okay, but we see that yes, he has picked up certain skills enough to at least create a video resume. Something this is so new that most people still don't really use video resumes. But he's gone ahead and he has learned how to do it and he's created one and he sends it further to his potential employers. Okay, so while saying something like I don't really understand technology is actually showing weakness, okay, he is doing it right by saying that I don't know it but I'm eager to learn. Okay, now these things cannot be said in a traditional resume. In a traditional resume you just mention stuff that you can do. So you highlight that you know how to use Word and Excel and PPT and Teams and stuff like that. And if it's not there on the list, people will just say that okay, he doesn't have this kind of skill. But something like I am eager to learn, that I'm a quick learner, okay, that I'll pick it up on the job and all. So these things you cannot really say. So what the video resume does is it helps to bring out your personality in addition to just stating the basic facts about you, right? And of course it's a creative field, and because each person is unique, there is no dearth, there is no limitation to the various ways in which you can use this uh, uh, technology and this new format. Okay, so this was a fictional video resume. Of course it's very scripted, but now I'm going to show you 3 real resumes, okay, of real people that were uploaded to YouTube. So let's look at it.
Hi, my name is Ramona Valukated. Before moving to London, I was a restaurant manager at Sherwa in Manchester. I have contributed to the increased value of the company using my financial, creative, and managerial skills. My current career aim is to gain a position within an innovative company which will utilize my skills and give me an opportunity to add up to my qualifications. I have a degree in business administration together with a practical experience in financial administration and small business management. In Britain, I have achieved a level 2 AAT, which I have decided to study in order to gain an understanding of basic bookkeeping and to improve my use of business English. I promise hard work, commitment, and creative approach to problem solving. I have excellent IT skills and can comfortably communicate with people at all levels. Please contact me for a position within your company.
Okay, any comments on this one?
Hi,
Any comments on this resume? Would you like to maybe compare it to the previous one? Or you just want to point out how that resume was created or what you noticed about it?
This resume seemed more realistic.
Okay, of course, because it is a real resume and not in a movie. Okay, go ahead. What else?
More formal than the previous one.
Very good, more formal. All right. What else? Did you notice how she used a mix of written material and spoken material to give like a complete picture of herself? She was saying some things, okay, and what she was saying was being complemented or um, it was being supported by the text that was on the screen, right? So she mentions work experience, she mentions education, she talks about her future plan, she has a career objective in the uh, resume, okay? She even talks about stuff that she's good at, her IT skills, and how she can communicate with people, okay? And then in the end, she gives her, contact information, and that's how the video ends. So that contact information is something that stays on screen after the video has stopped, right? So this is another technique that you can apply, okay, for a more corporate position, for a more serious kind of uh, application. You can do something like this, like a very formal kind of video, okay, where the way you speak and the way you've expressed and displayed yourself says some things about you, okay? So when you if you looked at the first video, okay, you can see that it's a more a casual kind of application, okay, and probably the job that he's going for is also something that is a little casual, or maybe the work environment is more casual. But this one, okay, the second video of the woman, okay, you can see that she's aiming for something very serious in a very very corporate kind of place. Okay, so based on the kind of job you're applying for, okay, based on the kind of uh, field that you're working in, based on the profession itself, the video resume and the way it's made will change. Now let's look at the next couple of ones together.
Hi, nice to meet you.
All right. So the these last two videos that we watched, okay, you see how they were in a way formal, okay, but they were also super creative. Now, of course, both of those guys were into software and stuff, so yeah, obviously, they're good with all mm, the graphics and all that went into the video, but you get a good idea about how you can really play around with this format. Okay, you don't have to list things out. You can flash them, you can add cool music to it, okay, and you can just use your icons to show that I know this, I know that, I've done this, okay. And they also made it a little personal by saying that one of them mentioned photography and videography and stuff, okay. They were also familiar with being a DJ, okay, and all the different languages that they spoke. Mentioned that they could do front end coding and all that. So just use different creative techniques to showcase what you can do. So remember, this is a showcase, rather than just a telling of something, right? Um, so yeah, so it's like it's this brand new field which is really fun in my opinion. Okay, and you can really make it work to your advantage. Like no one's going to force you to create a video resume. Okay, people are still very happy with the traditional or electronic formats. Okay, and I still think that majority of people still function with just receiving a PDF or a printout of your resume and supporting documents. But really, it's no harm to experiment with these different formats. Okay, especially since in your field, okay, in the computers field, people are moving towards a slightly informal kind of environment, and they are looking at newer versions of doing the same things. So interviews these days are not really the way interviews were earlier. Okay, and this whole startup culture that we've got going, it's really cool because people are really breaking away from traditional formats. Okay, in fact, when we move to interviews, okay, I'm going to show you another video which will talk about how startup culture these days is more informal, and therefore how their formats of conducting interviews and all is pretty different. Okay, we will look at traditional interview stuff, but we're also going to look at how things are changing these days, right? So with that, we are done with the resume part. We are doing employment communication under business communication at the workplace. So resumes are done. Before I move ahead and talk about something else that I've planned for you, do you have any questions or doubts?
Hello, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, in the video resume, the things would go too fast, and what if the interviewer misses some things, some of our qualifications?
Oh, well, that's the thing, isn't it? It's a video, you can pause it. At the right place, you just pause it and read. You can also change the playback speed, you know. So that's a very good advantage right there. And of course, how fast or slow it goes depends on the kind of impact you're trying to create. Okay, um, the first the first real resume we watched of that woman, it was a slow, easy pace, so we could read and listen to her at the same time, and information was not missed out. The next two were rather fast. I get it, but you see that there's a difference. These people, okay, they were younger than that woman, right? So theirs was the last two that we watched were faster. They had more upbeat kind of music, so that really sort of gave you an idea of the kind of energy they would bring to the workplace, right? So these are enthusiastic people. They are young. They have a lot of energy. Okay, and you know people looking for that kind of vibe would really be attracted to these two resumes, right? And also the skill of creating that kind of is also saying a lot about how they are as workers, okay, or how skilled they are at their jobs, because both of them were into coding and software, if you realized. Okay, and obviously the recruiter watching the video can slow the playback, watch it on their own time and pause where they need to pause and stuff. So that freedom is there. Okay. Any other questions?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So now let's talk a bit about a fun little assignment that I have planned for you. Okay. What you're going to do is you are going to create your own video resume. Okay. For that, uh, you can do the planning by yourself. You know what stuff needs to be included in a resume. You will get links to these examples that I have used in the slides. Okay, you can look at them. You can just go up to YouTube and just search for video resumes, and you get a ton of cool examples. All right, and you pick and choose the kind of stuff you want to talk about. Now obviously the examples that you saw are highly experienced people, okay, but um, you will write about the kind of experience you have, your qualifications, your skills, right? So don't worry, the deadline's not immediately. You will get time. You can use the vacation to plan stuff out, and after we come back from the vacation you will get a deadline. Okay, so yeah, you're going to create a video resume of yourself and you will upload it to the assignment section in our Teams. I will be putting up documents that will give you instructions about the length of the video and the format in which you will upload. You'll also be told about the deadline for uploading all this. Okay, and for the rest of it you get total creative freedom, how you want to create this, what software you want to use, um, however you want to put it up. Make it as fun and creative as you can while giving out all the important information about yourself. Okay, so that's one assignment that is coming up. Also I will be putting up your um, practical journal information, which reminds me that for today's practical, after you write out the journal, which will be the same as the previous one, so you will write the session number, the activity number, um, sorry, you write the aims and objectives, you write the requirements, instructions, procedure, discussion, debriefing, and after that the five pieces of paper that you used in today's activity, you're going to stick it. Okay. Sorry, 1 second. Right, so I hope that you used five separate pieces of paper, and all you got to do is stick them into your journal after you've finished writing the debriefing uh, part of this practical session. All right, any questions about the coming assignment or the journal?
What all can be included in that video?
Whatever you want. Basic stuff like education, any experience that you have. You can mention a couple of awards or scholarships that you might have won. If you've got work experience or internship experience, write that. If you've been part of some student committee, association, whatever. So look at all the information that goes into a resume. Okay, um, and then based off that, you can add your own flavor and uniqueness to it. Make it
Ma'am, the
about.
video.
Sorry, sorry, what?
Ma'am, should it be like the last two you showed on the daily?
It can be any way you want it to be. You have the freedom to just go hunting online and look what style suits you. Come up with your own style. Okay, your video resume has to reflect who you are as a person. Okay, if you are serious and straightforward, then your video resume reflects that. Okay, like the woman in that first example we watched. Okay, or if you are fun and creative, you can come up with something like the other two, or you can just do what you want. It can be a mix of different styles. Okay, just let it reflect who you are as a person. Okay, the kind of energy you bring. Okay, your perspectives, like that. Okay, any other questions? Okay, um right, so now we're going to go ahead to the next part of this unit, which is interviews. Okay, this is like the second part of employment communication. Let me just share the screen here. Okay, So, interviews. What do you know about interviews?
Questions related to the field which are opting for.
Okay, very good. What else?
We need to give interviews, then only we can get a job.
Okay, not necessarily, but in about 95% of the cases, yes. What else? What else do you know about interviews? Have you maybe watched interviews or read about them, maybe seen them in movies or TV shows or something? Come on, guys, think. Okay. So, interviews are basically formal meetings in which one person or maybe a group of people will ask questions, or they will consult, or they will evaluate another person or a group of people. Okay, so interviews are not always about jobs. Okay, when a famous celebrity is interviewed by a news reporter, okay, or maybe if there is a platform like, say, Coffee with Karan or the Oprah Winfrey Show, okay, that is also an interview where one person's asking questions to another person and they are trying to understand more about this person. They want to know more about who this person is, what they do, and stuff like that, right? So when you go for a job, okay, when you want to apply for a job, your first step would be to create the resume. So you followed all the instructions of the resume, you have created a perfect resume following the right structure and everything, and you've sent it off, and the recruiters like what they read about you, and then they decide that they want to meet you personally and talk to you. So that meeting where they will talk to you is an interview. You can also have interviews for college admissions, okay, where they want to see what kind of person you are, what kind of student you're going to be, okay. You can also interview someone when you just want to learn information about something. So let's say you are planning a little project and you want to talk to an expert about it. So the questions you will ask that expert, okay, and in order to try to get information that will help you in that project is an interview. So there won't be any judgment in that case. When you're just trying to understand the person, know more about them, know more about the work that they're doing, or you just want to gain more knowledge and information from them, okay. But an evaluation, okay, happens where something like a job or a college admission is concerned. Okay, and in general, an interview will help you reveal how the person thinks, what the person's attitudes, behaviors, concepts, and perceptions of the world are. Okay, there are a lot of telling questions that can be asked in interviews that really reveal, a person's worldview, outlook, thought process, right? And of course, it will reveal the skill of the interviewer. So, when you are being interviewed, when you're the one answering the questions, you're the interviewee, and the person asking the questions is the interviewer. And how much information comes out from that interview is going to reveal how skilled the interviewer is. What can they make you tell about yourself? What can they learn about who you are as a person? Right? That skill is also so not anyone cannot just get up and become an interviewer. It takes a lot of skill. Okay, it takes a lot of planning and understanding of human nature to come up with the right kind of questions to ask. So now you may wonder how you can prepare for an interview. Okay? What do you think are the things you need to keep in mind when you're going to give an interview?
We should be confident.
Okay, very good. You should be confident. Then,
Well dressed.
well dressed. Someone else was saying something. Sorry, your voice is breaking.
Try to answer all the questions.
Okay, what else?
Way of speaking should be formal.
Way of speaking should be formal. Very good.
We should be well prepared because the interviewer could ask any question.
Absolutely right. And how do you do this preparation?
Mock interviews.
Okay, mock interviews. Good.
Or watch many different interviews of the same field which we are giving.
Very good. You can also read about them, like interview transcripts are available online in certain cases. Okay, what else?
Asking someone who has given interview.
Absolutely right. What more? On a personal level, what can you do? So you've looked up mock interviews, you've looked up sample interviews, okay, you've dressed well and everything. But a little before that, what's the most important thing we need to do to prepare?
Getting information about the person we are going to interview.
But that's if, no. What if you have to give an interview? You will not, most of the times, you don't know who is going to interview you. And really, in an interview, if you're the interviewee, you're in the focus. Right, so people are there to know more about you. So it really doesn't matter who's on the other side. So, how do you prepare yourself for an interview situation?
We should we should reach the interview place before time.
Okay, very good. Anything else? Alright, so let's look at stuff you can do. First and most important, you need to assess yourself. You remember when we were talking about choosing a career and choosing a job for yourself? We spoke about how important it is to know who you are as a person, right? So, that kind of awareness, asking yourself those questions, is going to be extremely important. Because remember, an interview is not just about your field of study or your work experience. Okay, they're not just going to ask you generic factual information. They're not going to have like a quiz or a test for you. Okay, they are going to want to know you as a person. Okay, they want to know something that you cannot just copy paste into your resume, right? It's so easy to create a list of our educational qualifications, our prizes and awards, and all that stuff. All right. What's more important is that we are not just those numbers and little statements that we put. We are so much more. And usually, an interview is trying to find out that more, which is not there on the resume. Okay. So, you need to understand yourself. You need to understand where you stand. Okay. So, once you've sort of taken time to assess yourself, the next thing you do is to track and leverage your accomplishments. So keep a personal note of everything that you've achieved. On a resume, of course, you cannot put everything because it'll just be too long. But even the little achievements you need to keep in mind. Okay? And you need to mentally prepare a way for using these accomplishments to your benefit. That is the meaning of to leverage. How can you use the smallest of your achievements to your benefit? How can you make a nice, impressive vision of yourself during the interview? Okay, I remember when I went for my master's program, okay, at the university, they conducted interviews for us. Okay, and it was a panel interview. Okay, they were like every single professor of the department was present there. There were about 6 or 7 of them sitting. Okay, and of course they were asking some basic questions. They did ask a couple of questions about to figure out how well I actually know English literature. Okay, then they um, asked me about my interest in research and everything. And at one point, I don't exactly remember the question, it was so long ago, but I remember I said that it's not just the fact that I have stood first at the bachelor's level. If you look at my results closely, you'll see that my scores have consistently improved. So I just don't get to the top and stay there. I try to do better at every step. And a statement like that, guys, is something that is going to win people over. You may be good, great. There's a ton of other people who are as good as you are, maybe even better. So, what makes you stand apart from all of them? So, showing that yes, this is what makes you different. Okay, the fact that you are consistently improving yourself, you want to do better, you want to progress at a personal level and not just the professional level. The professional progress can be, yeah, you start at entry level and you end up as managing director or whatever. That's professional growth. But personally, how are you growing on the side? right? So this is just one example, right? It just shows that you have to find a way to make yourself look as impressive as possible without lying. Okay, that's important. Next, and this is a technical detail, keep your resume updated. All right. Typically, every month your resume should get updated. But of course, depending on the stage of life you're at and depending on the stage of your profession and career, it is not really possible to update every month because not enough has happened. Sometimes what has happened is too small to put on the resume. Okay, but every time something major happens, you change, you add, you update your resume. Okay, as soon as a project or something has been concluded, you put it up on the resume. Okay, as soon as you've won an award or accomplished something, maybe you've got a degree, diploma, certificate, whatever, put it up. If you've changed your job, put it up on the resume. Don't wait for too long. As often as possible, update the resume. And personally, I find it easy to just the files that I create every time I update the resume, I just name them by month and year. Simple as that. So my resume, because I'm in the academic field, I have two kinds of, I create CVs, okay, two of them. One is a generic CV that I can give to anybody, and one is, what do you say, tailored to my academic profession. So where I talk about, I give more details about my academic activities rather than the other stuff that I have done. So I just label my CVs as academic CV and then I put the month and the year in brackets. So for example, academic CV, October 2021. So I know which is the latest, which has the most recent information. Okay, it's just a little trick that you can keep in mind. Okay, but basically you need to update your resume often. And another trick you can do is create a master resume where every single thing is mentioned. So every little qualification, every little achievement, the smallest of certificates, even a participation certificate, put it down. So my master CV actually runs into like 8 or 9 pages, right? And then based on the kind of job you're applying for or whether you want to create a more targeted kind of resume or CV, then you can just sort of take information from the master and then put it together in a smaller version. So my academic CV is about half the size, right? And these are just little tricks that you can keep in mind that will help you create a good working CV or resume. Okay? Then, every time you apply for a new job or a new course of study where you need to submit your resume, please go through it before you submit it. Things might have changed, things may no longer be relevant. Alright, so always reassess your resume before you submit, and in general, even if you don't need to update it, make sure you keep going through your resumes every now and again. Okay, and another thing that you do to prepare for an interview in general is to have a list of questions you want to ask. Okay, so when you are going for a job or a course of study, there are definitely going to be doubts or questions in your mind. So keep a list of them ready. Okay, and if you get the opportunity in the interview, you will ask them. Some of those questions might be answered without even having to ask. But at the end, if there are some questions that are left unanswered, or based on what the interviewer has said during the interview, if there are more questions that arise, ask. Okay, no one's going to, punish you for having questions to ask. And then a follow up is essential. Okay, at the end of the interview, you can ask about a follow up. Sometimes they may themselves tell you that a follow-up will be scheduled or something. Okay, but um, if they haven't said anything, then once the interview is over, wait for a couple of days and then send a follow-up email or letter or call based on how it went. Okay, and ask about the follow-up. Okay, any questions over here so far?
No, ma'am.
Okay, right. Now let's look at each of these little things in detail. Okay, you need to assess yourself if you are currently unemployed. So right now, most of you may be unemployed. I'm not making assumptions, but I'm saying that since you're full-time students, some of you may not be having jobs. Okay, so if you don't have a job right now, this is the time to assess yourself. Of course, you're studying, but later on in life, suppose you were working, then there was a time when you lost your job or you don't have a job for whatever reason. Take time to assess yourself, because that experience of not working is changing things. Okay, like I told you before, uh, when the pandemic began, I lost my job, right? And I was jobless for a considerable amount of time. And in that time, like, I was ready to stop being a teacher. And I was just like, I am done with this. I just want to go and do something else now. And I literally went. I even applied to a few places that I managed to find online, still functioning and still recruiting during the pandemic. But then I was like, this is not for me. I may be frustrated with the field currently, but that's just because of the pandemic. And I know that I'm going to be one sad blob if I'm not doing anything other than teaching. You know? So always ask yourself first, you are most important. Okay, the job may be putting food on your table and a roof on your head, but nothing's more important than what you really want in life. There is no limit to the number of jobs that are available to you. Okay, no matter what you want to do in life, there is a job waiting for you. It's just a matter of finding it, right? So regularly stop and ask yourself questions. What do I want in life? What are my skills? What are my talents? What is my comfort zone? Am I comfortable doing this? So, for example, going back to my own example, when I lost my job and then I realized that, you know, whatever it is, I still want to keep teaching. I got a lot of offers for school teaching and like teaching at primary level and stuff. And I'm like, I enjoy teaching, but I cannot handle little children. You know, I may be okay taking my nephew out to the garden and playing with him and, taking him to the movies or whatever, but I can't teach kids, especially like 50 of them sitting in one class together. There's like too much energy for me to tolerate. I would like to teach people who are at least 13 years and older. Like I'm not going below that age level. So, this is an understanding that I have of myself because I am not comfortable with little children. I mean, I didn't even carry my nephew till he was 3 years old because that's how uncomfortable I am of handling children. So I can definitely not teach in a primary school. And like recently my nephew came over to stay for about 2-3 weeks with me, and every afternoon I was like switching on his online lectures, and I'm like, I used to be doing my work, but I'm listening to the teacher talking, and I'm like, how is this teacher doing it? The kids are just like talking and talking and talking all at once, and you know how kids, like, they scream at the top of their voice, and I'm telling my nephew, can you not scream like that? I'm like, poor teacher, think of her, you know so understand who you are, see what you can and cannot handle. There is nothing so great as knowing every little detail about yourself. So the moment something comes across you, you can immediately say that I cannot do this, or I can do this, or this is what I want to do. It just makes the entire process so easy. And again, this is not like a one-time activity. Every now and again, you have to stop and think and assess yourself again, especially when you are unemployed. Okay? Or if you think you're going to lose your job soon, if there are hints within your um, office or workplace or whatever that people are going to be laid off. Okay, maybe the company is not doing so well and you're afraid that given your position or your short work experience there, you may not be kept on. That's the time to once more think about yourself. Okay? Or if you want to consider changing your job, just for the sake of, maybe you want a better salary, maybe you want to work in an office that's closer to your home, maybe you want to change your occupation altogether, maybe you want to go from computers to something else. You have to think about yourself again. Okay? And you are focusing not just on your personality, okay, but also on the critical stuff like your skills, talents, abilities, strengths, weaknesses, where your interest lies, and what are your personal ethics. Because you may find a job that looks perfect, but the kind of business ethics they follow may not be suitable to you. So, working in a place that goes against your personal morals can be very hurtful to you. Okay? And next, you have to re examine accomplishments and achievements, especially in those that are connected to your job. So, this also sort of connects to updating your resume. So, look at what you have accomplished in your previous job, right? How many of these are going to be useful for the next job? How have these helped you improve your skills or gain new skills? Okay, and what does this achievement mean? So if you achieved something, does that qualify you for a better kind of job, or is it just going to keep you at the same level you're at?
Ma'am,
Right? Yes.
you know that
Sorry, what? Someone said something. Okay. Now, something that you need to do apart from creating and updating your resume is to keep a big file where anything that you have published, okay, all the certificates that you've got, any congratulatory letters, any letters of accomplishment, your letters of reference, okay, or if you've been given any kind of note or certificate or just a letter that is describing some activity that you successfully completed, keep a file of all of these things. Never ever throw those things away. You never know when it will come back and become useful to you. Okay? And make sure that anytime you do something, you get a certificate or a letter or something that is proof that you did it. Okay, that is very, very important. Never underestimate that. And if you have written some kind of article, even if it's just a short story or a poem or something, and it was published somewhere, maybe in a newspaper or in an online page or something, or maybe in a school or college magazine, keep a copy of it. Okay, always keep these things ready. Next, you track and leverage your accomplishments, okay, which means create a list of everything you have accomplished, especially those that will sort of set you apart from other people. Okay, remember what makes you special, what makes you more suited to being employed. Okay, um, a trick to doing this is using the PEP formula. You have to ask yourself, what is the profitability of this accomplishment? Okay, what does it say about efficiency? And does it show or does it add to my productivity? Okay, is this helpful to me? Is this helpful to my job? If yes, how? Okay, So once you answer these things, you'll get a sorry, good idea about which of these accomplishments are important, right? So look at these. You can talk about um, special things you did at your job. Maybe you were in charge of a special event or a special project or something. If you took initiative, if you came up with a unique idea that was adopted, all right? Um, if you went over and above your call of duty, okay, something that was not really your job, but you did it and you've got proof of it, okay, keep a note of that. Okay, make a note of any promotions that you may have got at the job, especially those that happened rapidly and often. Okay, and obviously you will keep a record of all your awards, okay, such as employee of the month, or I don't know what kind of or a most consistent team member, or best project leader in such and such branch, something like that. Then some companies, especially the big ones, have something called an annual performance review, where you go over everything that you've done in one particular year, and there is a two scale rating program. So you rate your own activity, how well you did, okay, whether you could have done better and stuff like that, and your employer will also answer the same questions for you. And then there's like a cross tally that is done, and you're given ratings for each of those things. So every time you receive a high rating in a performance review, okay, that means that your chances of promotion and progress are higher. So you have to keep a note of all these documents that are provided to you. Okay. Um, then sometimes clients, customers, employers, they give you letters or they send memos that will sort of acknowledge or appreciate the work that you've done. Okay, they will compliment you or thank you even for the good job that you did for them, and this becomes a testimonial for you, proof that you're a good worker. And finally, if you have published, say, a research article or a report that was written and published by you, okay, if you have developed a particular product, maybe you developed a system or created a software or app or something like that, keep the records for everything. And this is what you can use to impress the next person who takes your interview. Okay, any questions over here?
Ma'am, can I ask a question off the topic?
Okay.
Ma'am, ma'am, our teachers are so good at their work, and you are also so good at your work, and our programming teachers and all. But why do they choose teaching if they are so good at their work? They could have get a job easily in the reputed companies and all. Why do they choose teaching?
Well, I cannot speak for the others, obviously. You'll have to, ask them for yourself. But for me, I can say that this is just something that my heart said that I should do. It's like once you sit down to really think about yourself and what you want to do in life, what you want to study, where you want to work, okay, it sort of comes from within. It's like your calling in life, you know? And usually this is something that you are naturally good at, right? I mean, I went through so many changes in my thoughts about what I wanted to do when I grew up. When I was 8 years old, I was like, I want to be an astronaut. I want to study aerospace engineering. And then first day of 11th standard, I'm like, I can't do this anymore. You know, like I cannot handle math and physics. And then I was like, okay, now what do I do? And I'm like, I'm good at bio. Then I got some experience in a lab. I'm like, I'll go for biotech, simple. But then again, that technical stuff did not really appeal to me. So I thought maybe I'll shift to arts. And while I absolutely loved psychology and philosophy, okay, again, I think I told you this. I was like, I cannot handle being a psychologist. I cannot practice that. I cannot spend the next 40, 50 years of my life listening to people and helping them with their problems. And that's when I thought that I can still be in the field without actually practicing psychology. I can teach. So I'm keeping in touch with the field, but I'll be in an environment that I'm absolutely comfortable in, something that I love to do. I always loved going to school and college. So I thought that I'd like to spend the rest of my life in college, you know? And that's when I decided I would teach. But even then, I figured that my true love actually lay in literature. And that's how you find out. And no one's going to complain or make fun of you for changing your ideas often. And you keep changing them until you find that one thing that is absolutely perfect, something that you will love for the rest of your life. And after all these years, I'm still as much in love with literature as I was when I decided that that's what I wanted to do. In fact, I'm like taking steps to build my career further in literature, like sort of really set myself in the academic field. What makes me unhappy can be something like the state of employment in the country. We are not uh, we are still a developing country, so our employment opportunities are not great. So in a lot of places, a lot of people are understaffed. Okay, they are overworked, underpaid, and that situation is there in every field, whether you talk about the science field or you talk about your technology, computers field, medicine, even among the academic. There's a lot of people who are struggling, especially in the pandemic. I know so many uh, teachers, teachers who've got like 20 years of experience. They were losing their jobs. They were not getting okay. And even before pandemic, there were a lot of uh, you know people talking about how difficult the field is. That might be something that makes you unhappy. That makes me unhappy. Okay, which is why for a while last year I thought I don't want to teach anymore. But this is my life. Like, I will be so unhappy if I'm not dealing with literature, if I'm not in a classroom all the time. So that is what makes you choose. This is what I want to do. I mean, my own family members tell me that I'm wasting my brains teaching. And I'm like, how is it a waste if I'm the happiest when I'm teaching? Like, what makes me unhappy? Listening to you talk about why I'm wasting my brains. So that's the kind of thing you need to, really get down with. So find what you're really happy doing. So I cannot talk about your other teachers because, well, they are their own best spokespeople. But for me, it's just a matter of being happy. And I can do this day in and day out. I will never get tired of being in a classroom. There have been days when I have been on my feet and talking continuously from 7 o'clock till 1 o'clock. And I haven't been tired, you know? So it's just that. Something that you really love. And it doesn't have to be the typical thing, you know? So you may have a skill for something, but you really need not make your life in that. You can do something else with it. Does that answer your question, Kefali?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, and I hope you guys don't fall for um that whole rubbish of just don't follow the herd. Basically, just because everyone's doing something does not mean you have to do it. Just follow your heart, and that's what you really need in life. Okay, and remember, it might get difficult for you, but in the long run, at the end of your life, you'll be happy if you followed your heart. Okay, it's like that Three Idiots dialogue. Ghar chota hoga, gadi choti hogi, but you will be happy. Okay, like you may not even have a car, but you may not have a house of your own even. But as long as you're happy, who cares, right? So, yeah. So before I go ahead to, okay, are there any other questions?
No, ma'am, all good.
Okay, so I do want to finish this entire section on interviews today. So I'll give you a break till 11:35. I'm going to end this meeting because this is technically the practicals meeting that we have continued. So I'll end this meeting now. Okay, you get a break for about 15 minutes, and then we will meet again at 11:35. You will use the regular lecture link. All right. So go get some tea, coffee, or little snack, walk around, have a little break, freshen up, and I'll see you at 11:35.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, thanks guys. I'll see you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, we're coming back. Don't go away.